Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my brother, the hitless. No, wait, that's not what he wanted. The unhittable Matthew Henry. Nobody strikes him out like this guy. How you doing, Matthew?
Would it hurt just to have one solid introduction to me? You know, I asked for one thing. I said, Ben, I want to be unhittable today. And you're like, oh, I was going to make you hitless. And then you just went and did it anyway.
That's what little brothers do. Also, if you were a better editor, you could fix it.
Oh.
So it's up to you, folks. If you hear this, then you'll know that Matthew didn't edit it out because he was too lazy.
I might just be too lazy. We'll see. Because by the time we finish, Ben has been talking for a while now. It's later than we normally did, and then I got to edit it before midnight, and so who knows? Anyway, Ben, yes, unhittable. Unhittable is what I am, just like Blake Snell.
I mean, I hadn't realized it had been that long since the last Giants no-hitter. And I think that's because I just keep forgetting about Chris Heston.
Yeah.
I just it just so...
That
long
nowhere.
String of no-hitters.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to believe it was stopped by him. Maybe he started a curse. The curse of Chris Heston has been broken, and it took a reigning Cy Young Award winner to do it. So we're definitely gonna dwell on that a little bit today. We're gonna dwell a little bit on the Reds series. We're gonna do all of that before we get into our main topics of the day. But before we get there, Matthew, I need to ask you the icebreaker question.
Okay.
And sometimes this is related to the theme, and sometimes I just pull a weird question out of
one of your orifices.
That's correct. Out of my nostril. And I just, let it fly. And that's actually what's happening today. So here it is. This is the question. When you're making an omelet, do you need to break a few eggs? Metaphorically speaking. Discuss.
Okay. Metaphorically, because literally, yes, you do need to break a few eggs to make an omelet. I guess minimum one egg. But usually more than one. And but metaphorically, yes. Metaphorically, if you want to do anything worthwhile, you got to risk being a little messy, Ben. So that, yes, absolutely. You're making an omelet, you need to break a few eggs.
Wow. Okay, so you do need to stir things up. You need to make some people uncomfortable to accomplish great things.
Exactly.
Or just normal things like an omelet.
Well, omelets can be pretty great too,
They can be. I actually really like a good omelet. Also, Matthew, what do you think about the fact that the word literal is now a figurative word?
I'm sure it drives the linguists crazy. I'm okay with it.
I'm an English major. It drives me insane.
Are you literally insane?
Yes, because I actually saw somebody, I'm going way off the rails here. I saw somebody on social media, Matthew, say the word literally twice, not because they were trying to do extra emphasis, but because they wanted to make it clear that they literally meant. And they were still being figurative. I was like, no, I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle that young lady.
All right, Boomer.
Anyway, today is Sunday, August 4th, as we record this podcast. Your San Francisco Giants went 3-2 this past week to bring their record to 56-57. And I was very confused as to how they could be only one game under 500, Matthew, because they're not at homeostasis.
No.
They were yesterday. And I was confused. And then I realized, it's because they played 2 games against Oakland. They had 2 off days this week. So very confusing, very upsetting. But the
Well, I'm dead at
did
that.
I accidentally? I'm going to beat me out there. The upshot of that is, Matthew, they're above homeostasis. Not
I actually
quite
didn't.
to 500.
No, exactly. So let's not get too excited, but it's a step in the right direction, Ben.
I think this is it. This is the sign, Matthew. This is the sign that Farhan's middling approach, the Farhan way, is finally. Well, what? It's finally doing what it always does, going to 500. Yeah. But I mean, it's a sign of better things to come. I'm choosing the side of optimism for this day. But anyway, the Giants are 56-57. They went 1-1 against the Oakland Athletics. And let's all ignore the fact that their offense played like they should have gone 0-2, because the best rotation in baseball started a dominant run of, 2 games. But what a 2 games.
Yes.
What a 2 games. The Giants bullpen didn't pitch for 3 days in a row because Logan Webb started it off with a complete game shutout. And then Blake Snell came in the series against Cincinnati in his first major league appearance at the Great American Ballpark, which, by the way, was the last ballpark that he needed to pitch in to get all 30 active parks.
Wow, I did not know that.
And he did it with a no-hitter. He did the no-hitter. And I don't know about you, Matthew, but I needed that.
You know, as a Giants fan, sometimes you need a little pick-me-up. Something to kind of make you believe again, make you feel alive rather than the numbness that kind of seeps into your body this time of year. Absolutely, we need it
for a normal Giants year. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. And you know what I liked about it too is that you started to get a sense of Blake Snell's personality. Like, we hinted at this a little bit earlier when he had his first really good start of the year. And
and then they had an interview on national TV that was kind of fun.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking about, like, hey, this guy's actually pretty smart. He's got this surfer kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And it's really like not actual surfer vibe. It's like a video gamer who wants to pretend that he's a surfer kind of vibe. And some, sometimes that you might take that the wrong way if you're judgmental and biased. And I'm saying that was me, Matthew. I'm saying that was me. I'm saying that was me. Like, when I heard Blake Snell talk, I was like, listen to this dude. What a joke.
Well, it was easy to say that when he was pitching like crap, too.
That's right. It was easier to say that. It was a little cathartic to say that. And but you know what? When they prove you wrong, you have to admit it. And I will admit that I was completely and totally wrong about Blake Snell. And I just especially enjoyed the attitude and the sort of emotion and energy that he was showing after the game, right? Calling, first of all, Harrison and Webb out for one of the worst, Gatorade
dunkings
of all time. They hit him on the back with the edge of the cooler, and then hit him in the top of the head with the lid of the cooler.
And then got his glove wet.
That's true. But I mean, at least they did hit the target with the water. So I will say that. He called them out for it because, that's the kind of guy he is. But it was still very funny. And then I saw the way that he approached the dugout, like the clubhouse. He kind of like hesitated, and then when running in, like he knew he was gonna cause a ruckus, and he caused a ruckus, and then gave a great speech, and then was like, yeah, let's go out there and get it tomorrow. It was all like, yeah, I'm like, Blake Snell's the greatest. I mean, sorry, Blake Snell is the greatest, not Smell. That's the old Ben speaking.
Blake?
I haven't had any of my cocktail yet, Matthew, and I already can't speak. Blake Snell is the greatest. Should have signed him way back in December.
Agreed.
Okay.
I don't know what else is there to say about that. He is fun. He was fun to watch. I actually did not see it in live. I was actually driving from Southern California after I dropped my son off at college. So I was listening to it on KNBR, which thankfully has quite the extended reach.
It really does.
Down Interstate 5. And I actually turned it on at 4 o'clock in time to hear about the rain delay. So then, I came back at 5 and listened, and I actually missed the middle few innings because I got a phone call in the middle of it, and was just talking, and then I got him back, and I was like, "Wow, Blake Snell's still in the game." It was like going into the 8th, and I didn't know that he was pitching a no hitter yet at the time, and so I was really surprised to see him in the 8th, and then all of a sudden when they said he was still had no hits, it was like, oh my god, it was a lot of fun, and then of course I watched it on TV the next morning, and. It was just a lot of fun to see him just dominate and I mean, it was very, very impressive, especially in that ballpark.
Right.
As we've seen over the last couple of games, home runs can fly out of there. And as you said earlier before we went on the air, it's a lot easier to limit home runs when you're just striking everybody out.
Indeed, right? And I think that's what he did, right? But yeah, I think there were 6 at least home runs in Saturday's game. And I know the Giants hit a bunch today. And so did the Reds. I think they had 2 solo shots. So there were a bunch more home runs today. So, I mean, Great American Ballpark lived up to its billing for the rest of the series, but I think that just added an extra sort of emphasis on the no-hitter. And, Farhan, not wrong about the starting rotation. I mean, Kyle could have been better, but you know what? The greatest rotation in baseball probably has a 5th starter, and maybe that's Kyle right now.
Yeah.
And so they didn't win that game, but then Robbie Ray came back out, and Robbie Ray has given up quite a few home runs in his last 2 starts, but not much else. And thankfully, the Giants, well, Matthew, as you told me today, the Giants scored more runs in a single inning than they had in the previous 4 games.
Yeah, 4
Is that
games,
correct?
4 or 5 games. What was it?
Well, it was definitely the 2 games before that, and the 2.
No, the previous 7 games.
See, I didn't think it could even. What 7?
They hadn't scored 5 runs in their previous 7 games, and all of a sudden they put a 5-run inning in the 8th today. So that's how bad their offense has been.
My goodness!
And yet they were still 3-2 over their last 5. So.
That's true, because they've got such a great rotation. All right, well, that's it. That's enough for the good news. It's time to doom and gloom, because that's what we do on this show. No, I'm kidding. You know what, though? What we've been talking a lot the last few weeks about trades. Trades. And finally, thankfully, trades are over. So now we have to move on to a different subject matter. So what we're going to talk about is trades. Okay, no, specifically what we're going to talk about is what the roster looks like now after the end of the trade deadline, and how does this roster shape up for the rest of the season? And more importantly, how is this roster shaping up for next year? And then after that, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into something that's been annoying me for a while. And that is the Giants' ability to evaluate the major league readiness of their AAA players. Because I think they've gotten a lot wrong and not a lot right recently. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. But before we do that, Matthew, it is time for you to ask us our trivia question.
Today's trivia question is in relation to what happened in this last week. Logan Webb, as you recall, shut out the Oakland Athletics on Wednesday. And then on Friday, the following game, Blake Snell, while pitching a no-hitter, also threw a complete game shutout. So my question to you, Ben, is when was the last time that the Giants had two pitchers throw back-to-back complete game shutouts?
1993, John Burkett, Bill Swift.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That actually has some credence to it.
Whenever in doubt, go back to 1993.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll just see how wrong Ben is at the end of the episode. But that was not a bad guess.
No. I mean, it's too obvious, right? It's too obvious.
Too obvious. That's right. That's right.
Isn't it time for the booze, boys?
Oh, snap.
Yes, it is time for the booze. In fact, it's past time for the booze. Ben hasn't been drinking much, but it is time.
What are you drinking, Matthew?
Well, thanks, Bob. So today I was over at my girlfriend's place, and she's like, "You want to make a cocktail?" And I said, "Sure, what do you got?" And I was rummaging through, and I started adding things. I had a little white rum. I added we got some really great orange brandy from the Napa distillery that we went to, and so I thought, I'll use some of the orange brandy liqueur, and then I'm like, lime juice, I guess would go good with that. And then I put in a couple dashes of peach bitters because I wanted to do something kind of fun, but it wasn't sweet enough with the orange liqueur. So then I'm like, well, Orgeat, I'll throw some Orgeat in there. Folks, I made a Mai Tai. I didn't know that I was making a Mai Tai. I thought, well, this is good. I'll bring this to the show. And then as I was actually writing down the ingredients and what I put in it, I was like, this is a freaking Mai Tai with peach bitters. So that's what I'm bringing today. 2 ounces of white rum, 3/4 ounces of orange brandy, like Grand Marnier, a half ounce of Orgeat syrup, I should say, 1 ounce of lime juice, and 2 dashes of peach bitters. Put them all into a shaker with ice. Give it a good shake. Strain it into a rocks glass with plenty of ice, and garnish with a lime wheel. I'm calling it Mai Tai, as MYTIE. But it's basically a Mai Tai. A little bit of the ratios are a little different, but same thing. So enjoy it. That's what I'm drinking, Bob. A Mai Tai.
That's a tasty cocktail.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's funny when you kind of remake the old classics.
What are you drinking, Ben?
Well, thank you for asking, Bob. That's very kind of you, Bob. I would have called that my TIE fighter. Because I'm a nerd. Or geek. A geek is when you're into all the nerd stuff, but you're not smart. I'm a geek, not a nerd. Anyway, Bob, today I am drinking a Banana Daiquiri. This is not the Banana Daiquiri, but it is a Banana Daiquiri. It is my Banana Daiquiri. And what is in my TIE Fighter Banana Daiquiri? 2 ounces of white rum, half an ounce of Banana Liqueur, Giffard's Banane do Brazil, to be exact, half an ounce of ginger syrup, because see previous show. This doesn't have to be ginger syrup. It could just be regular simple syrup. But, use what you want. And then 1 ounce of lime juice. Combine all of the ingredients in a shaker with ice. Shake until chilled. And then strain that into a coupe glass. And then it would probably be appropriate to garnish it with something like a banana or a candied cherry or 3 or ginger or a lime wheel. I didn't do any of those because I was lazy. And that's what I'm drinking today, Bob. A Banana Daiquiri.
That's a tasty cocktail.
It's pretty good. I really like the ginger edition.
I bet. That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is the current roster amazing, though, Ben?
It's got some amazing players on it.
Yeah, I as we talked last week, maybe not even better than it was before the trade deadline, but maybe with some upside.
Yes. It's got tremendous upside, and I think, I think it's worth digging through. It's worth trying to understand what's going on inside of Farhan Zaidi's head. It's probably a fruitless effort. Like tilting at windmills and, that sort of stuff. I feel like I'm the Sancho Panza to your Don Quixote as we try to figure out what is going on in the mind of Farhan Zaidi. But still, it's worth trying.
It is. Let's start with a couple things. So one is that we know Farhan went on record saying that he wanted the team to get younger. This was before the season started. They were talking about younger and more athletic, yada, yada, yada. And then as the season progressed, then one of his things, he brought in Jorge Soler, didn't necessarily make them younger or more athletic, but what it did provide was some right-handed power. And I think we saw Farhan wanting to utilize the strengths of Oracle Park where right-handed power plays, right? And so this trade deadline, I think, kind of illustrated a little bit of both of those things. Certainly getting younger, giving more opportunities to the young guys like Luciano to have more of a prominent role, but also taking advantage of some right-handed power, because we saw, again, Luciano get promoted after Soler got let go. And then we see the addition of Gerard Encarnacion. Everyone is saying Gerard, but Ben and I are going in on Gerard.
Gerard,
Okay.
because we can do it. We can do the and we can roll our R's. So we're doing it. We're Gerard. The only two people calling them that, along with his mother.
But I think, those two, the addition of Encarnacion and Luciano is greater than Jorge Soler. And I'm really proud of myself that I said greater than, because Ben actually used the little greater than symbol in our show notes, and sometimes that confuses me, but I went with it.
Yeah, folks, he asked me last week. He says, "Okay, I never know what this symbol means. Is it trying to eat the bigger one?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then I remembered that's how you teach like 5-year-olds what the symbol means. You tell it that it wants to eat the bigger one.
Yeah, it's like 8-year-olds, and I got to tell you, third grade, I sat next to Stacey Adams. She was really cute. Wasn't really paying attention.
So you were distracted.
I was.
Yeah.
So I probably should have boned up on it since then, but it hasn't really come up.
Psychology degrees. You have to take stats. Whatever, doesn't matter. Encarnacion and Luciano, are they better than Soler? I think on paper you would say, of course not. That's ridiculous. How can a rookie who was supposed to start the season as your starter but didn't, and a guy that started the season, watch this, in Oaxaca. That's not even Spanish, Matthew. That's Aztec. Yeah, you can tell by the X. Oaxaca. Anyway, a guy who started the season in Oaxaca are better than Jorge Soler. And, the first thing you would say is, because Jorge Soler was not Jorge Soler.
He was an imposter. Yeah.
Yeah, and he became most comfortable hitting in the leadoff spot. And so when he was hitting home runs, they were solo shots. And then a lot of time, he wasn't doing much of that. And so that is how you get the combination of Encarnacion and Luciano to be greater than Soler. And, so far, I mean, they've only been there for 3 games at this point. And they haven't had a lot of, I think Encarnacion's only had 9 at-bats. He's had 2 hits, a double and a home run. But, if he gets a hit in his next at-bat, he's hitting 300 over the first 10 at-bats. So, I think that was better than Soler was doing in his first 10 at-bats. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not going to go look it up. But the point is, unfortunately, I think these two guys could be better than Soler. And so far, they haven't been worse.
No, they have not. We have not missed Jorge Soler.
So, and I would definitely agree that this is what this lineup needed. It needed right-handed power. That's why I wanted Brent Rooker. That's why I was willing to go along with your crazy idea of Mike Trout. And boy, dodge that bullet.
Good thing we didn't do that. Yes.
Indeed. Okay, so yes, they wanted to get younger. They wanted to have more right-handed power. So Matthew, answer me this.
Okay.
What was the Canna thing all about?
Yeah, 2 things. One, it feels like there was probably no one that was logical to move up from AAA to fill Wilmer Flores' spot, because as you kindly broke it to me before we went on the air, that it looks like Wilmer's injury could be pretty serious. We pull it together. We may not see Wilmer again this year or any other Any other year. Okay. All right. But so there wasn't anyone obvious to bring up and fill his role. So maybe they threw Bob Melvin a bone and got one of his guys.
Yeah.
On a cheap deal.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think the only part that you look at this and you say you wish that Matos was in that role, but that's really not the role he's filling right now.
No,
it's David Villar.
Yeah, I was going to say if David Villar had been hitting, then Kana isn't even necessary.
Right. Yeah. And so it's really Encarnacion who got called up instead of Matos. Right. Like that's the extra outfielder that you added. And so yeah, I think you're right. Bob Melvin wanted somebody, and he also advocated for a little bit more of a veteran presence. He didn't want to just get super, super young. And so yeah, but at the end of the day, I think we're kind of like, yeah, this is more of a Wilmer Flores replacement, first baseman, than it was an outfielder. All right, so those are the changes that we made. But Matthew, that is not what Farhan's major thesis was, right? It wasn't about the hitting, right? And he acknowledged the offense hasn't been good. Like, no, it hasn't been good. But he said the strength of this team is actually the starting rotation. He said it was the best in baseball. And Matthew, I'm going to have to agree.
Really?
Yes.
Is it because you're too lazy to look it up?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes, it is because I'm too lazy to look it up. Because when he says that, I'm starting like, really?
Is it really?
It is really
Ben.
the best
it
rotation?
Is. The best rotation in baseball.
Is it really?
Our last two frontline starters just threw 2 shutouts, so and a no-hitter. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Name me another starting staff that has done that.
The 1993 Giants, Matthew, did it when John Burkett and Bill Swift did it back-to-back, which
I mentioned this season from another team.
Oh, right. And I think you kind of you kind of made it clear that's not even accurate.
No.
Okay. I don't know. And again, because I don't want to go look it up. So you're right. Best rotation in baseball. Best rotation in baseball. And quite honestly, so far, we can't really argue with that, right? They have been really good.
Yeah.
They have stolen wins. I would argue that obviously Logan Webb stole a win.
Right.
Winning a game 1-0.
Yeah.
Is an offense should be able to score more than 1 run. And if it was another great pitcher on the other side of the field, I'd be like, okay, maybe you just tip your hat to them and say, wow, what a great pitcher's duel. But the other guy on the other side of the field was Ross Stripling. Okay.
Yes, who had like a 9 ERA going into that game.
Yeah. So Logan Webb basically did the offense a solid in that. And yeah, I would agree. It is the best thing about this team. It is an absolute strength. And quite frankly, I think you have one of the best 5 pitchers in baseball on your team right now in Blake Snell.
Yeah.
But
what
you know
about
what
next year, though?
Well, that's what I really like about this rotation, Matthew. Because I think the chances of Blake Snell being a Giant next year are pretty low. In fact, I think if you want Blake Snell to be a Giant next year, you have to hope he gets injured kind of seriously, but not super seriously in September. Right? And in that case, you would only hope that would happen if the Giants are out of the playoffs. So this is not a good story, because this is the only way this is happening, is if Blake Snell gets hurt, and then you hope that he comes back midway through next year, and then we can just repeat this again next year, but hopefully with a little bit more foresight.
Because Blake Snell, you're a cold man.
Well, look, if I don't want that to happen. But if that doesn't happen, then Blake Snell is not going to be a Giant. He's not going to pick up this option. He could go easily get $30 million from any team he wants next year. And since he could do that, he can also go out there and test the market and get a longer contract.
Absolutely, and he should, because he's getting older, and he should take advantage of that. And he could choose a team that maybe will more than likely make the playoffs.
Right. And I think most teams now, having seen what happened to him over the last couple of years, would be like, oh, I believe now. I'm a believer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And somebody out there will give him the long contract. So Blake Snell's probably not going to be a Giant. Right. And I don't think we want to sign somebody like him for 5 or 6 years. 4 years, maybe 3 years, definitely. But 5 or 6, no. And I think somebody out there will give him 5 or 6. All right. But that's okay. Because Matthew, the other 4 guys in that best rotation in baseball are all under team control for next year. Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, Kyle Harrison, and Hayden Birdsong are all going to be San Francisco Giants next year. And on top of that, which is fantastic, right? And the Giants, because they traded Jorge Soler, because they won't have that $30 million going to Blake Snell, they'll have a whole bunch of money to maybe go out there and get another frontline pitcher if they want to. But also, they got a bunch of young guns who can help lengthen that depth, because we learned how important that was this year, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And so, at the top of that list, and probably maybe the guy who makes you think you don't have to go out there and get another starter, is Jordan Hicks.
Yeah.
Because, he's still on the team. And he's going to be stronger next year, and he'll be coming back in his second year as a full-time starter. And so, yeah, there's Jordan Hicks, but also Tristan Beck, Keaton Wynn, hoping his surgery goes okay, Mason Black, Carson Wisenhunt, Landon Roop. All of these guys are contributing to your depth, and I am sure the Giants will go out and find some other guys who are maybe not so exciting, but help lengthen that depth, right?
All you have to do is look at the IL of other teams and see what pitcher is currently on the IL with some kind of tendon problem.
That's right.
And then the Giants will trade for that guy.
That's right. Or he'll become a free agent and we'll sign him even though he's hurt and won't come back until July.
Exactly.
So the point is that that projects very well for next year, right? That is not a question mark. Yes, obviously this year has proven to us we need as much depth as we can get. So go get more depth. But your front 5 already looks pretty good.
So what I'm hearing you say, Ben, and this makes a lot of sense to me, but what I'm hearing you say is that our hashtag phrase on Twitter from here on out should be hashtag wait till next year.
Yeah. I think, Matthew, everybody knows that. I think you and everybody knows we've already punted on the playoffs. And I'm not saying it can't happen, but if it does happen, it's going to be a very pleasant surprise to Giant Cocktails. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Right, because even as well as they're playing, before the All-Star break, they were 3 games out of the last wild card spot. Right
then
now,
they went 7-3, and they're 4 games.
They're 4.5 games. Yeah, over the last 10 games of going 7-3, they've lost a game on the wild card spot, and that's just because they have so many teams to pass. And let's not talk about the fact that it's the Padres and the D-bags who are locking those 2 spots up. But the Padres are putting pressure on the Braves now, moving into number 1 spot.
I hate that the Padres are good.
Me too, Bob.
Ditto, Bob. Ditto. All right. Well,
so if we're looking at our roster for next year and this year, right? So we're going to take stock of it this year, but also kind of project to whether these guys will be around next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with our infield then.
Okay. Well, can you really quick do a rundown of the bullpen?
Oh, yes. Everyone's back.
Everyone?
Everyone.
Wow. Cool. Thank you, Matthew.
Yep. No, you're welcome. Yeah. All joking aside, everybody's under team control next year. So if they want them all back, they'll come back.
They can,
And the team is looking pretty strong in the bullpen right now. So, it seems like there would be very minor tinkering maybe with the bullpen going into next year. Okay, so having said that, infield, though, that's a different story.
Right.
We are kind of experiencing maybe a changing of the guard this year, a little transition from, we had Bikra last year, and we still we've finally figured out who the shortstop of the future is going to be in Tyler Fitzgerald.
The fourth choice, the third, fourth?
Yeah, whatever. Just they threw some things against the wall.
Yeah,
Tyler stuck,
Tyler stuck.
And so that maybe be the only maybe that's the only position that's kind of locked down for next year. What do you think?
Yes, I think that is definitely the only position that is locked down for next year. I mean, first base, right? It's Wade Jr., it's Wade and Wilmer.
Well, now it is, or it was.
I mean, it was. Yeah, it's supposed to be, but Wilmer's hurt, and I think it's pretty obvious that he's not going to be coming back next year.
Sorry, Wilmer.
And Lamont Wade, I mean, I think will probably come back next year, but you kind of start worrying about his durability.
Yeah.
And so the only other person that I see who like sort of the current roster who fits in for that next year, Matthew, is maybe Marco Luciano. Can he play? He's not going to be shortstop. Now we know that. Yeah. He's not going to be the shortstop, but can he play first base?
Well, certainly. Come on, first base is like easy.
Yeah, all right. First base is the easiest. It's the easiest position. That's right. That's what we learned from Billy Bean and Moneyball. I'm talking about the movie, the Brad Pitt version of Billy Bean. All right, Matthew. The position I'm really worried about.
Wait. Before you go on, though, Wilmer, if you're listening, I'll be there for you.
Oh, wow.
When the rain starts to fall.
Get a room.
Love Wilmer. We're never going to hear Friends again with the walk-up song.
Nope, never again. There's only one Wilmer, Matthew. I agree. I'm sorry. There'll be plenty of time later to praise him and to sing his accolades. But right now we got to talk about second base.
Okay. All right. Oh,
we got a problem at second base. Well, we have two problems at second base.
We've got two guys that sometimes can play quite well.
They both are very good at defense. I mean, they're both good. They're both above average. They're both servable defenders.
Let's harken back to the 80s, Ben. Let's just roll out second baseman that can't hit. Let's just, we did the entire decade of the 80s was like that. Let's just
Okay. I mean, I'd take a Robbie Thompson. I'd take a
Dwayne Kuiper.
A Dwayne Kuiper. Wow. True. Wait, Dwayne could hit. He just didn't have any power. I mean, it's Brett Wisely and Tyro. And, I know you want me to believe in Brett Wisely, and for a brief second he had me fooled, but, I would rather roll with Tyro, and I'm not really certain about that either. So here's what I'm thinking.
Dark horse candidate?
Marco Luciano.
Yes. Starting first baseman. Marco Luciano now plays second base.
Second base. He's at second base.
Okay. All right.
And we said shortstop was Fitzgerald.
Yes. So, of course, Matt Chapman, of course, locked down, right? What do you mean?
I'm a little bit worried about that, Matthew. Maddie's been playing great, right?
Yeah, he's on a Chapman tear right now. Yes.
Yeah, he's on a Chapman tear. He's on that thing that
he just matched the home runs that he hit all last year.
That's right. He hit 17 home runs last year, and he has 17 right now. He is the greatest defensive third baseman in baseball. There is no doubt in my mind. He made another amazing play today on Sunday. He has been everything as advertised, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because he has an opt-out. And Matthew, I think the fact that he has put, this is easily so far a bounce-back season for him. He has the power still. The glove is still very much there. I think the combo of that value is super high. Some teams out there are going to want that.
Yeah.
He might opt out.
Okay. Well, of course, then we have somebody in the wings that could just step in, don't we?
I have an idea. Yes.
Oh, okay.
The problem is that I don't think he can play three positions at once, and honestly, his defense is a question mark. But it's Marco Luciano.
Oh man, they're gonna find a position for him, is what you're saying.
They're gonna find, because they're gonna have a lot of options.
Oh man. Okay, Luciano, starting third baseman. What about David Villar or Casey Schmidt?
I mean, they're there. Sure. Sure,
they'll be
like
in the running for sure.
Yeah, I think David Villar's getting a little older, but I mean, still, I mean, he's not so old that he couldn't be a major league starter, right? It would just be a shortened career. Casey Schmidt, yes, like if his bat continues to develop, right? Like if he and he's very good defensively. He's not. I mean, he's not Matt Chapman. Nobody's Matt Chapman.
That's the problem.
But yeah, he's an option for sure. David Villar, I think, is a realistic option for first base as well. But I don't know that I'm not super excited about either of those guys. So it's interesting.
Yeah,
I think the infield is starting to look a little uncertain in the near future.
Well, then that'll be a place where Farhan will have to kind of devote some attention, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Where he won't have to devote any attention, though, is catcher.
It's Patrick Bailey, and who cares?
Yeah, Patrick Bailey, and who cares? Nasty Sugasti, Blake Sable.
Yes! Nasty Sugasti! He's only like 22 years old? I should really learn his first name.
Adrian?
It's Adrian, yes. And I'm sure it's not pronounced Sugasti, but it is in
our world.
Yeah. But his stock is rising.
Okay.
You know, like
I
as a
see
prospect.
you say that with like enthusiasm. You're excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like
Ben has never been more excited about a backup catcher.
Yeah, just because of his name. Right, his stock has been rising. He continues to move up the rankings for the Giants. So yeah, let's put him on the list. And of course, yes, Blake Sable.
Okay, yeah, Blake, of course. You know, Rule 5 draftee Blake Sable.
Rule 5 draftee Blake Sable.
All right. Well, then we got the outfield.
Yes,
and this is also an area where maybe there's some movement in the near future. Although we're bringing back Jung-Hoo Lee. We hardly knew ya, right? So he'll clearly be the starting center fielder. They signed him to a long-term contract. Doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. Lee is the starting center fielder. And then we've got 2024 breakout Elliot Ramos. Right?
Yep. I mean, he's
clearly be starting in one of the.
He will be. I think he's starting to hit his first downward point of the season. I suspect he's getting tired.
Yeah.
So it'll be.
He also had an injured thumb, so now they're sitting him out a little bit. So
right, okay. Well, then that's interesting because he's really only the last 2 weeks has he really struggled.
Yeah.
And so hopefully he bounces back from that. But yes, I think he has more than earned a shot at being penciled in as the starting corner outfielder for next year. For sure.
So left field, because right field is definitely Yaz, right? No, don't tell me that. First you say Wilmer, and now you're saying I see it in your eyes, Ben. I see it. First 30. You say Wilmer, and now you're saying Yaz. What? We don't want good baseball players? Is that what you're saying?
Yaz and I went to the same high school at the same time, Matthew. None of that's true. But what I'm saying is he's old. He's going to be 34, Matthew. He's going to be making a lot of money next year.
But it's not your money, Ben. Who cares?
I'm saying it's the Giants' care, and I'm saying that okay, there's a lot of reasons to bring somebody like Yaz back, no doubt. Great presence on the team. I am sure he will continue to be a valuable player next year. But I think there is a strong possibility that Yaz does not get tendered this year. There is a possibility that he is not a Giant next year, just so that they can make room for the younger guys.
Yeah, because who wants a guy with a 114 OPS plus, with a 1.9 WAR through 2/3 of the season? Yeah, who wants a guy like that? Yeah, why would we want a guy like that?
I'm not saying that they won't, Matthew. I'm just saying they might not, because he's not Matos or Meckler or Gerard Encarnacion.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yes, and I think that's the inevitable truth is that. First of all, Father Time waits for no one, Ben. And
that's right.
The other thing is that eventually you want your young guys to come up and take spots away from veterans. And so maybe next year is the year. We haven't seen that quite yet, but maybe it is the year. I know there's one player, though, that you're looking forward to being gone.
He is not going to be a Giant next year. He has been a good Giant for the last 2 days.
Yes,
I will give you that. It's always, that's the way it is with this dude. That's the way it is with this dude. He goes 3 weeks of just infuriating you, and then for 3 days of 1 week, he goes on a tear, and everybody's like, is this the Michael Conforto from 1,000 years ago? and then he just regresses back to the mean, and so no, I am Michael Conforto, like, great. Fine. I'm happy for your 110 OPS plus and your up and down performance and your occasionally important hits, but I won't miss you. You will not be a Giant next year.
Okay. All right. And just to be fair, it's 105 OPS plus.
Oh, wow. I gave him a bonus. All right. Yeah, and the guys I am excited about are Matos and Meckler and Encarnacion. I don't think Encarnacion is by any stretch of the imagination a sure thing. I think he's a guy who could be a bounce back and forth between AAA and the majors. But he's an option, and he's an exciting and interesting option because he's got a lot of power.
Right, and his history is that he eventually strikeouts get to him, and if he could just limit the strikeouts, then maybe he's got a role for sure.
Right.
Okay, well that is the roster and kind of like what it looks like now and what it could look like going into next year. But Ben, there's a problem with as we look to next year, and you and I have kind of been talking about this a little bit off the air. And it resurfaced earlier this week when Hayden Birdsong, there was an article, I think, in The Athletic about players that were going to be brought up to the majors that were going to have an impact this in the second half or going forward after the trade deadline. And Hayden Birdsong was mentioned in this article, and the way they mentioned it was that his real development has happened at the major league level.
Yes, and
that the coaching, he was getting better coaching at the major league level than he was in the minors, and so the speculation was that he would do better in the majors than he did even in the minors because he was getting good coaching.
Yeah. Okay.
So
this is my rant.
All right, you go. I was going to tee it up for you even more, but you go, Ben.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is my rant. Like, I believe that the San Francisco Giants, at least for the last few years, have had a major evaluation problem of their prospects' talent and who is ready for the major leagues and who is not. And I want to. You started with Hayden Birdsong. I think he's a perfect example. But I want to talk to you. I'm going to mention to you a bunch of names, and I believe all of them have this problem in common. For different reasons, but I think it's a problem for all of them.
Okay.
Elliot Ramos, Tyler Fitzgerald, Hayden Birdsong, Kai-Wei Tang, Dalton Jeffries, Marco Luciano, and Mason Black. Okay? I believe that the Giants completely and totally missed whether or not these guys were major league ready for all 7 of these guys. They missed with Ramos by leaving him to toil in the minors, not just for, like, spring training, but for 2 months at the minor league level. And he tore it up for 2 months down there, and only begrudgingly did they finally bring him up, wasting his talent for 2 months at the minor league level because they didn't believe he was ready. Tyler Fitzgerald wasn't even a lock to make the team. He was this yo-yo guy. And a lot of this is on Bob Melvin, too, because they didn't play him. This was a guy that could have played in 7 positions, and they barely used him at all. And then he became the yo-yo guy. And now he is the Giants' offense. Hayden Birdsong started the season in Double-A. I get it. He's 22 years old. But you know what? Like, if that's what you're thinking, oh, he's 22 years old or he hasn't done it long enough, then you're not using your eyes and you're not using the tools that you should have to know that these guys are ready. And yes, you did finally bring him up. But wow. Another example. And okay, now on the negative side, the first guys that we saw out of the gate, out of this vaunted starting pitching depth that the Giants had, were Dalton Jeffries and Kai-Wei Tang. Neither of them are major league ready. and certainly weren't at that time. And I know that a lot, and I worry a little bit about the Jeffries thing because it really sounded to me like a lot of these guys had an emotional attachment to this guy. And then I worry that that's why he made it. Because he wasn't ready. Kai Wei Tang wasn't ready. Okay? And Mason Black, he wasn't awful at the major league level, but he wasn't great. And then he went back to AAA and he proved there that he wasn't ready as well. Okay? And then my biggest complaint out of all of these guys is Marco Luciano. This man has been in your organization since he was a child. Since he was 16 years old. You should know if he cannot play shortstop or not. And the thing is, a lot of people knew that he couldn't. People outside and even inside of the organization said, no, he couldn't. And you waited to figure this out at the major league level after penciling him in as your shortstop? Something seems very broken here. And yes, they got a couple of these right. They got Patrick Bailey right. They got Kyle Harrison right. And I know Kyle Harrison hasn't been an all-star, but that's not what being a prospect is about, folks. It's about being a serviceable major league player. And that's what Kyle Harrison has been. And my argument for both of those guys is they were so obvious, anybody would have noticed it. 7 misses seems like a lot of misses. So, there's that. And then as Matthew, as you said, it really seems like that at the AAA level, they have a really hard job getting those guys over that last hump. Elliot Ramos, for example. Hayden Birdsong, for example, right? You said he got better as he got to the major leagues and the coaching, because the coaching at the major league level was the best. And that seems broken to me too.
Right. No, I mean, on one hand, it makes sense that you would have really good coaching at the major league level. But as far as if your lifeblood is getting guys to the major league team and having them be ready to support your team, it seems like they would invest more in their coaching at the minor league level if that's the problem. And for Birdsong to suddenly get so much better after he's joined the major league team, seems like that there's some resources could be redirected towards the minors to prevent that from happening again. We want guys, Wouldn't you want guys to be better at the minor league level before they hit the majors?
Yes, right. You want to have the best coaching talent back there so they're ready to get there. And I get that the guys want to be on the major league team. They want to travel with the team. But you can't tell me that you can't give a guy a big enough salary to base himself in Arizona and then travel occasionally and send guys to him. And then that's his job.
You could pay me that money, by the way.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I know that major league coaches get paid a lot, but they don't get paid the big bucks, folks. Think about that. You could allocate just a little bit larger of a percentage of your overall budget as a major league team, and it would probably make a huge impact at the coaching level. To give somebody, a decent 6-figure salary to be a high-quality coach for minor leaguers, and you're based in Arizona, and that's what your job is. I mean, I don't know. The only other theory that I have, Matthew, is that... So, I guess that is my theory. My theory is that the Giants have been bad at this. The only other theory is that nobody's good at this, and it's just luck. Right?
That's probably it.
It's just luck. You might be right. It could just be luck. But here's the thing. If it's just luck, then throwing a bunch of young guys to the wolves and seeing which ones make it out is probably the way to go, right? Not this thing where you let 1 or 2 young guys have a little bit of tastes here and there and they don't get a hit in 10 games, so you throw them back to AAA. All of this teasing and little bit of sniffs here and there. No, you put 7 young guys on your roster and you let them play for 4 months and you see what you got.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. But that's, first of all, would the Giants fans tolerate that? So I could just see an offseason where Farhan's nope, we're not going after any free agents. We're just going to let the young guys play. We're going to bring up all these guys and we're just going to let them play and we'll see what sticks. We're going to throw them to the wolves and see what sticks. We're going to mix metaphors and everything. What would that mean to Giants fans? Would that, I could just see you and I ranting about how they haven't spent any money and how they're just foolishly allowing these young guys to play.
I think they can do both because I wanted to, I'm not advocating tanking here. Okay, because there's a difference between what I'm talking about and tanking. Okay. Tanking is when you intentionally lose a lot of games so that you get higher draft picks. That's tanking. Okay. So you do throw a bunch of young guys out there. You intentionally don't invest money in quality players. I'm arguing you go out and get a few high quality free agents, and then you fill in the rest with the young players. What you don't do is you don't go out and sign these middling free agents, these guys in their early 30s who kind of sort of are good, who fit nicely into a platoon situation. You don't sign those guys. And you fill those spots with young players. Now, when you're in that kind of mode, might you lose 90 games? Yes. And does that suck for a fan base? Yes. But I think if a fan base is smart, and I think if the marketing team is good and you focus a lot on those young players, I don't know, maybe come up with a slogan like, you got to like these kids. I think that fans would tolerate that. And I also think the turnaround, it would be obvious on the field, right? Because I'm not saying bring up the worst young guys that you have. I'm saying bring up the best, right? Bring up the kids you believe in and let them prove themselves on the field. If that's the way that it's supposed to work, which I'm not 100% convinced that it is. You're probably right. It probably is just luck. But that part of me believes that no, this is a skill issue. And if it's a skill issue, the Giants need to get better at this skill because they have not been good at it. And I don't know. It's annoying. All right. End rant.
Okay. Well, I think that kind of gets us to the end of the episode. Folks, send your prayers and wishes for Ben's strong mental health to us, via, Twitter or, because, Ben's been holding that back for a long time. And it's not healthy when you hold things back like that. So,
well, this is what little Farhan and I argue about in my head. This is the biggest argument that we've been having recently.
All right. Little Farhan thing. All right. Anyway, I think it's time to answer today's trivia question. So the trivia question was, when was the last time that the Giants starting pitchers have pitched back-to-back complete game shutouts? The answer is not 1993. It's August 19th and 20th, 2002. Levon Hernandez shut out the Florida Marlins on August 19th, and the next day, Jason Schmidt shut out the New York Mets. He struck out 13 in those 9 innings as well, which was probably a pretty normal day for Jason Schmidt, for those of you who remember. Anyway, that is the answer. 2002 was the last time that 2 starting pitchers for the Giants threw back-to-back shutouts.
Do you want to know who did it before that, Matthew?
Was it Burkett and Swift?
No, I wish it was. But it was the caveman, Don Robinson, when he one-hit the Houston Astros in 1988, August 10th. And then the next day, also against those same Astros, Atlee Hammaker pitched 9 scoreless innings, giving up 5 hits and 2 walks and striking out 3 for a complete game shutout.
Wow. Good old all-star Atlee Hammaker. And the
That's
caveman.
right.
You don't hear too many caveman references anymore.
You don't. That was in 1988.
My junior year in high school, because I'm old. All right. All right, folks. Well, looking ahead, we got the Washington Nationals. We're continuing our streak of teams we should beat. And this is one of them. The Nationals are currently 51-61, 9 games out of a wild card spot in the National League, and they're 4-6 in their last 10. I looked it up. There's only 9 players that have played exclusively for both franchises, meaning no others. But the most notable one was Woody Kirk Reeder.
What?
Was the only other, it was one of those 9 to play only for, well, then it was the Montreal Expos.
Oh, an Expo. Yes, that's right. He was.
And the San Francisco Giants.
Wow.
So,
Woody.
Yeah. So got another episode of mentioning Kirk Reeder.
Nice.
All right, folks.
The Giants also did it to the Dodgers in 1987.
Oh, that's worth mentioning. All right. Who are the pitchers then?
Mike Lacoste.
Ooh.
did it on August 16th, 1987. And the day before that, it was, oh my God, Dave Dravecki.
Oh, lefty.
Four hits, 2 walks on 7 strikeouts. Complete game shutout.
Great Giants.
Wow.
Great Giants.
Because
All right.
Dravecki. Wow.
All right. Well, that is the end of our episode, folks. Don't forget to give us a follow on the socials at Giant Cocktails on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Mastodon. Also, don't forget to give us a follow on YouTube, where you can hear us talk on YouTube, and you can subscribe there, and you hit the little follow button when we publish. You'll be notified. You can also leave us comments there if you'd like. Don't forget to also rate us or review us on your podcast listener of choice. It is a big help to the show if you do that. We haven't had one recently, so if one of you could just go there and leave us a 5-star review, that would be wonderful. I think that's going to wrap it up for us today, Ben. It's been great chatting with you. Talk to you next time. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
Mike Lacoste and Dave Dravecki.
Oh man, that's like digging into the archives.
Whoa. I kind of am digging in the archives. I can't stop. I can't stop clicking on these links, man. I can't. They did it in 1974, 1973, and they did it twice in 1971.
Ooh, that team must have won a lot of games.
At least 4.